Welcome to this new episode of In the Shoes of Data Leaders. Today we will talk about ERP modernization program from a data perspective. How data can become an enabler for the success of these programs. While quite often, unfortunately, it's seen as a risk. Master data, its integration in the ERP system, data hierarchies, data migration, all these topics are seen as a risk. But with the right architecture, with the right governance, by having data of good quality and shared at the right time, data can become a success factor for these programs. To deep dive in this topic, we will talk about Pernod Ricard use case. For that, we have with us Vincent Meunier, who is Chief Data Management Officer at Pernod Ricard, and Marcel Hugentabler, who is Director at Apgar, in charge of the software factory, where at Apgar we create data management accelerators to support ERP programs. So Vincent, please, perhaps a few words to present yourself.
So thank you, Ala, for having me. So as introduced, I'm Vincent Meunier. I'm the Chief Data Management Officer for Pernod Ricard. I've got a very long career within Pernod Ricard with different roles, both in the tech and transformation and business development. And now I'm leading and coordinating all the data effort for Pernod Ricard.
Marcel?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Marcel Hugentabler, responsible for the business solutions, which we will talk later about in more detail. I'm also responsible for Apgar Switzerland, and today I'm happy to talk about these challenges in data transformation.
So Vincent, starting with you, an ERP program has definitely a lot of impact on the data. So tell me, from your perspective as Chief Data Management Officer, what is your role in this program?
So I would describe my role with two things. One is definitely to make sure that, as you mentioned in your introduction, Ala, that we have data ready for the master data ready, especially, but data ready for the ERP program. And by data ready, it means, of course, the data as such, but all the organization, the processes that are needed to make sure that we can manage and govern the data in the future. And in the very specific case of Pernod Ricard, coming from a highly fragmented environment and different IT systems, really about driving harmonization and standardization to support the fact that we're going for a single ERP at the end.
So you agree with the statement of saying ERP program often see data as a risk, and from your opinion, why?
I didn't experience something different than what you said. I think everybody was a bit scared about data. I would say one is again it's a critical delivery of the program. Is without proper master data, especially available for the go live of the ERP, you can forget about your go live. I believe that sometimes it can be seen as a black box with a lot of matters to be tackled, and people are not always very familiar with those. And then the third one is in our case, we wanted to go for a really harmonization at the company level. And when you engage into such a transformation, then you're going to touch not only the ERP, but you're going to start touching the other application. And usually an ERP program is already a big beast. And adding another complexity and interdependencies is always something that people are not really happy to do in such a context.
And what would mean success of the transformation from your perspective as a CDMO?
I mean, to put it simply, and as our program leader would say, is just a removal of all our mapping table and translation table. So that would be definitely our objective, building the common language for all affiliates and all Pernod Ricard employees and partners as well, and also data quality and data consistency, being able and being sure that the data that we're looking at is consistent across affiliate, and it's really reflective of the reality.
Mm-hmm. Well, an ERP transformation program, I think it's important to see it as it is really. It's not just upgrading or modifying technically a tool. It has definitely much more impact on the IT landscape than that. It's also reviewing the business processes. It's also requiring remodeling of the data. And in some time, a lot of cases actually that we've encountered, you're moving from multiple ERPs on local level, regional level, for instance, into one central instance. And definitely that is bringing to the surface discrepancies on the data practice between those locals or regional levels. And so obviously, this requires you to launch a data program to be able to align all those people on one way to do things. Yeah. So from that perspective, ERP transformation program is not just an upgrade of a system. It requires you to review the way you manage data, the way you share data, you govern the data, you steward the data, and that's why there's a need to have a data program in parallel. So this is a choice that you took also at Pernod Ricard. But can you tell us, from your perspective, why data program was necessity in parallel of the ERP program?
So I wouldn't. I would challenge the word parallel, and I'd rather use the word tight synchronization. For me, the way we design the data program is really to embed it and synchronize it with the ERP program, which is both a curse and a blessing. Definitely a blessing and a necessity in a way, because as you are redesigning your processes, as you are redefining the way you want to work, you also need to take care of the way you want to model your data, the way you want to manage your data, what type of quality, what type of concepts and definition you want to put in place. But a curse in a way that you add a bit of complexity to an already, as I mentioned, a very complex program, and then adding another component and the need to develop specific actions to make sure that the data are cleansed, governed, and in place for the go live.
So definitely all of that has some impact from budget perspective. So how did you plan for it? Of course, I'm talking about the data side here. How did you plan for the financial side?
So we didn't really plan for the data side as such. I think that was part of the overall ERP program that is part of an overall transformation of Pernod Ricard. We have the ambition of doubling the size of the group, and to be able to double the size of the group, we had to upgrade our backbone, or our skeleton, I would say, to make sure that our processes, our systems, our organization was able to cope with a business of double the size of what we are now. And really, what we're doing here through our ERP program and our data program is building the foundation that would enable tomorrow Pernod Ricard to reach its growth ambition.
So working on the data was obvious in the case. Case. Okay, very good. And so let's go back in the past with the point where the program was announced to you. So what were the first things that you thought about? Definitely you had a lot of things to work on, but what were, from your perspective, the top priority topics you needed to tackle to prepare the program?
I think the first question that I asked and I asked myself is, what is the ambition we have with the data program, and what is the level of harmonization that we have? Is it just the fact that we want to solve the data harmonization from a very fragmented IT landscape to serve the needs of the ERP? Or do we want to take the opportunity of that program to be a bit broader and just to tackle all the necessary harmonization of the data at the group level? So really having that mandate to drive the harmonization was key, but also to be able to articulate how this harmonization will bring value to the group. Because again, if you look at that data program in the context of the big ERP program, the company is investing a lot of money. There's already a lot of risk related to ERP implementation. You don't want to add risks and constraint on the data piece without making sure that you're really triggering and generating value for the group. So that was really my key question around the level of harmonization and standardization that we wanted to get.
And the planning is definitely the schedule. I mean, for the program is monitored very well in these cases. And on your side, you're just, you need to follow it. You don't have really a choice. So how did you do on your side to plan your actions, to cope with the requirement of the schedule of the program?
I think that's an interesting question. I'd like to see the ERP program a bit like a super tanker which is cruising between two continents, and then there's a boat on the side, And that boat needs to make sure that when the big one is shifting left, you're shifting left, otherwise you're going to be crushed. You have to be careful as well that as the tanker is progressing, you have waves, and then you're not caught into the waves and sinking. But at the same time, you are also in a bit, in a way, opening the way for the ERP. So we had a lot of, in practical terms, we had a lot of design sessions that were common between the more master data program and the ERP, taking an end-to-end approach of master data and making sure that we have consistency and harmonization from beginning to end on data.
Okay. And were there some key decisions that you identified had to be taken to start the program at the right on the right foot, and who were the people involved to take these decisions?
So again, the key decision was on the level of harmonization. The level of harmonization triggering hence the scope of the data program. Question was, are we just triggering and designing a program that would serve the ERP needs, or are we again taking the opportunity to build something which is a bit bigger and at the enterprise level? The question that comes with it, even if you decide to go for the second, which is what we did, enterprise-wide harmonization, is how do you sequence it to make sure that you are not adding too much risks to your ERP program and making it still deliverable in a way in the timeline that you had for your ERP, knowing that again the ERP is already a massive undertaking for the organization. You're going to require and mobilize a lot of resources, and you don't want to add even more work, unnecessary work, to drive that level of harmonization.
Okay, so you took the decision at Pernod Ricard to start an MDM program, and so, as you like to say, in sync with the ERP program, which is of course the right decision to take. But still, I wonder actually, from your perspective, how do you do actually to make sure that this MDM program that should be an enterprise-wide approach doesn't get absorbed by the ERP program, which is, as you said, the big boat beside this small sailing boat. So how do you do to make sure that it is still an enterprise-wide approach?
So I was lucky at the time to be able as well to launch more of a data governance initiative at Pernod Ricard. That was also something that has been identified as a need to support our overall transformation, and not only the transformation related to the ERP. So I had the mandate to put a data domain in place to make sure that the data, a certain set of data, were governed at the group level. And obviously, we picked the master data as the first one to be included in those data domain. So with ownership of the data within the business, we've worked to make sure that that standardization and that harmonization was carried and supported by and driven actually by the function and not coming from the ERP. Ensuring again that the needs that we were covering were global needs and not only the ERP needs.
Marcel, anything you'd like to add on this topic?
Yeah, so I think it's also very crucial to have really these data management programs aligned with the ERP program itself, because the data becomes a fundamental part of the business process. So, and I think it really needs to be integrated and really synchronized and driving in parallel and looking for each other, not to put further risk onto the overall program.
And so how do you approach data cleansing and data harmonization from as part of the ERP program?
Yeah, so I think that's really something where APGA can bring added value. So we have done many projects. We have seen many examples how to do that best and really how to fit it into the overall process. So with defining the workflows, also the rules, how to have the data proper, we can guarantee that the data quality in the end is really there where it needs to be.
Okay, so let's move now to the program, okay, and the execution. We did the preparation, we're in the execution. So Vincent, what were the challenges that you encountered during the program?
So the first one was really, and with a lot of respect for my colleagues, SAP consultant, is usually the lack of understanding and knowledge of master data as a discipline by SAP consultant. They have a kind of a very fragmented and siloed view on master data. And usually when we had mapping session and work and design session with them, there was I need this attribute, so let's create a field in the data model with that field, and then you end up with gazillions of attributes on an object. Whereas we really wanted to go back to the real understanding of what the business concept, what the real thing that we wanted to capture, and how from those concepts we could derive other data. So really, that one was one. The second one was, how do we build a model that is covering our needs, but at the same time not too complex? So then you can understand it and then you can implement it, and ultimately you can integrate with SAP. And that's always a bit of I would say the balancing act is finding a data model that covers your need, but at the same time is not completely different from what is in SAP. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot of struggle to be able to connect with SAP. And the last one is really the impact on the consuming application. As you start changing the concept, as you start changing the model and the taxonomy, then it has impact on the application, on the other application, and those impacts are sometimes hard to assess and would require work to be remediated.
There's a sentence I like from Mike Tyson: "Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face." So I hope you didn't get punched really.
Not yet.
But what are the things that you were a surprise for you actually and made you change your initial plan?
I think it's complexity of the data flows to and from SAP. I think it's fair to say that SAP is usually more in a broadcasting mode where it sends information rather than to receive information. So we are struggling in some of the data flows to be able to enter into SAP in a proper way. And as I was mentioning, remediation with application could be quite complex in a highly fragmented environment with application that have been there for many years, with knowledge and documentation that is not usually at the level it should be.
Okay, so when working inside on the definition of the new solution, designing the new solution, you're definitely working with all the business users, and as we were saying before, they are coming each one from their own area, their own instances, working with the data the way that they wanted actually before. And so definitely there is something here to do to be able to align. Okay, each one would describe the future from their perspective, how they were doing before. They are trying to reapply this in the future, definitely. So how do you do? And this is, I guess, a topic about the governance. How do you do to make sure that you are still able to align?
And that has been a lot of that has triggered a lot of conversation and discussion, where, as you said, in a very fragmented environment, and without having and then very fragmented and built over time systems, because we also need to acknowledge that it's not always a lack of design as such. It's the fact that you have waves of implementation. Hence, everyone came with its own data model and not really with the ability to impact the other one, or not even the willingness to impact the other one. So the first thing was really to say, let's put some sort of ownership of the data through data governance to make sure that there was someone in the organization that would carry and be responsible for carrying the concept and being the guardian of, this is what we call a channel, this is what we call a customer, this is what we call a product, to make sure that we could align everyone around those definitions. What we've observed in one of our affiliates is close to 50% of the so-called data quality problem that we were facing were actually just a misalignment of definition rather than real quality issues but people were looking at things believing that there was something else than what they were in reality.
Okay, Marcel, I think I.
Yeah, I think it's really about understanding also the business process. So, as Vincent said, it's about the ownership of the data. So you need to understand what's really there. I think the data management, the tool itself, it's only there to support the process, but in the end, you need to understand what you're doing. And you need to have the clear definitions, who is responsible and who needs to do what. I think only then it can really properly work in this context.
Okay. And so from an organization perspective, I see really two possibilities. Either data teams are central, they are outside of the program, they are having synchronization with the program. So ERP program has some tasks for them, and it's requesting so data team to work on it, or you have people dedicated for data inside the program. So two really different organization. Which one did you take at Pernod Ricard, and how did this help you to have a smoother activity?
That was also part of the discussion in the beginning. We went for a model where we have a master data team that is not integrated into the different squads that we've organized around the ERP processes. However, there's a direct connection between each and every domain and the squads of the business processes. And again, it relates to the ambition that we have of harmonization and global harmonization at the group level. The moment you decide that you want to harmonize at the group level, you need to make sure that you take you walk one step away from the ERP to make sure that you are also looking at what is outside. Whereas if you're in the ERP teams, of course, I mean your focus, which is fair, would be around the ERP.
Actually, from my perspective, I see it really as a hybrid thing, because data team should be central to be able to focus on the full view. But at the same time, when you have a program as big as the ERP modernization program with a lot of demand for the data part, you still need to dedicate people to work inside the program. So you take them from the data team, central team, to work inside the program. And from my perspective, you're moving in this case from a dependency approach where one is requesting the other to do something and they are not really like one team, to be working together inside one program.
And if I can add something, it's really the way we approach it, because you can always build a data model from your knowledge, and then you become a very I would say close, nearly an academic work to say this is a product and those are all the attributes that I want to have on my product. The way we approach it is really to be use case driven and to make sure that for each and every attribute that the team was willing to put in the model, we had a use case that could justify that we had this data. Otherwise, you end up having very strange attributes, because maybe one day, someone in a given context will need that. And that's why the tight communication with the ERP is critical, because the ERP is providing you a huge part of your use cases, and you make sure that you can serve them through the model you're building.
Mm-hmm. Anything you'd like to add on your side, Marcel?
Yeah, I think it's really important to speak the same language. So I mean, not is it German or French or English, but really talking about really the same thing. I think it's always also good to have the ERP terminology reflected in the MDM system, so that you know which field it's related to which table in the ERP system. So I think that's definitely something very helpful, and also helps on the user acceptance.
So from the you were talking before about the waves, how the IT landscape is built, but it's the same actually also with the ERP program. It's not a big bang. So you have a transition, you have multiple go lives, multiple cutovers. Each cutover is definitely a very risky step. So how do you plan for that in your experience at Pernod Ricard?
So first is really, as you said, Ala, we don't have one size fits all. And it's quite a affiliate per affiliate approach that we'll take, depending on the scope and the activity of the affiliate. We're going to start with the absolute group which is the entity in the group selling and producing Absolute Vodka, Malibu, and Calwa. And then we'll go to Pernod Ricard Iberia, which is Spain, Portugal, and Andorra, which are distributing affiliates. That the cutover strategy can't be the same because the very nature of what they do is completely different. We are taking it in a kind of a 18 to 12 month approach ahead of the go live to start preparing all the operations that needs to be to happen. And especially as we are touching all the taxonomy and the data structure, we need to look at what are the implication and operational implication of, say, recodifying your product. It's not something that you can do overnight. It's a bit of operation. And you also need to consider the connection you have with your partners. So partners being customers, being suppliers, being third parties. So we have some of our warehouses that outsource to 3PL. And then you need to make sure that if you change the codification, they are able to manage it.
Yeah. Gradual transition means definitely that at some point you are having a system where old system coexist with the new system. So Marcel, from your perspective, how to manage that?
Yeah, I think that's really also a technical topic which can be tackled very nicely with an MDM system. So managing keys in coexistence. So I think that's very important. I think not only for the current transformation project, but also to look back, to look forth, to have backward compatibility. And I think with storing multiple keys alongside within the data management system can help very well. Also then for later when you want to go into archives, you always have the possibility to really go back on that.
Okay. And we are assuming, since we started this conversation, we are in the case of Pernod Ricard. So we're assuming that there is a dedicated data management solution. In our case, we're talking more about the master data management solution that is, aside supporting the ERP program. But it's not always the case. And for some organizations, they decide to manage the master data inside the ERP. So Marcel, did you encounter this case, and was it a success from your perspective?
So I didn't really encounter that organization wanted to manage the data directly in the ERP, but I think it bears lots of risks. One is the user acceptance, so because it's maybe much more difficult to manage the master data in the ERP itself. But one other very important topic is that the ERP data is still then standalone, whereas when you want to go into a data management system, you really can manage your SAP data, your non-SAP data really in one single system, and have all the business processes integrated. So therefore, I think it's much easier also from usability to go with a data management solution and really concentrate all, as I was saying, from various systems.
So you were lucky actually working only with wise organizations.
That's what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve. Absolutely.
Vincent,
we are coming from a world where in most of our affiliates, master data were managed in the ERP. So for sure, I mean, it has its benefit, and I think as always, it's not completely black and white, and the impact is not always visible on the business side. But what we've seen is the biggest challenge, as Marcel was mentioning, is in ERP, you usually store the data that are useful for the ERP in a format that is useful for the ERP. And if we're taking the example of hierarchies, you may have hierarchies stored and managed in a way in the ERP, which is absolutely not the way you want to have hierarchies in your BI system. And then you start having the need to recreate hierarchies in one way or the other in another system, and then you lose consistency. There's also the fact that beyond storing attributes, you don't store, you only store data that are, again, useful for the ERP. And I'm taking another example, which is customer. You may want to have a prospect or indirect customers for which actually there's no need to have them in the ERP. So if your master data system is in the ERP, you would leave them outside. And then the third element for me is really a kind of a process and governance way. ERPs are really good at managing static data and transaction. They are really not suited for workflows and validation process. And usually the way to implement governance goes through implementation of workflows with validation steps to make sure that the data is of quality.
Okay. So in even the simplest things, when they are put at scale, they become complex. So Pernod Ricard is a big group. You want to harmonize data management across all regions. What can you tell us about the challenges that the size actually is putting in front of you?
So I would say that four things. I mean, the first one is when we talk about harmonization, and that's something that I could have said a bit earlier on. You need as well. So we wanted to define we wanted to go for harmonization at the group level. But then the question is, what do you really harmonize? What do you leave at the local level, and what do you leave at the regional level? I think it's a bit of at least I don't know if it's a maturity question or if it's really something that would stick. But our belief is we're going to have harmonization at the global, level of harmonization at regional, and we'll have some sort of flexibility left at the local level. Because ultimately, some of our business is local, and there are specificities that you need to take into account. So the three things that I would mention is when you change data structure, you impact your S3. And then the fact that if you look at you changing the way you segment your distribution channel, it has an impact on your previous sales. And the question is, do I retreat my historical data with that new taxonomy, or do I build bridges? And then you start having one question. The second is, again, I'm going back to this remediation and application. How far do you impact this new structure to your application? Sometimes you say, okay, I'm going full in. Sometimes you say, I'm going to take it partly, and then still the application will do a little bit of transformation. Sometimes you have application that cannot cope with that new taxonomy. So I think it's a couple of questions that we're facing. We have a warehouse system in some of our affiliates that cannot cope with the length of codification that we have. So how do you manage that while keeping the same codification? And then BI. And ultimately, all of that will end in your BI solution. And then how do you remediate your BI solution? And that could be a highly and a very costly exercise. So that's why at the same time we are doing this harmonization on our master data, we are also engaged into a BI rationalization initiative to reduce the numbers of dashboards and harmonizing our KPIs to make sure that the complexity that we removed there is not reappearing at the end of the channel and the funnel.
Yeah.
Marcel?
Yeah, I think the harmonization it's a very important topic, so that you have really a global concept also, especially in your case, also from the size. But I think it's also as important that you also have a local answer to these challenges. So because there are local regulations which you need to answer, and maybe if you just have one single harmonized structure, that's not possible anymore. And I think therefore it's really very, very important in these programs to look at the global level, but not forgetting the local level and also the local specific requirements.
For long years, actually, at Apgar, we supported a lot of programs, ERP programs with data management activities. And we, with our project after project, we identified really the existence of a common denominator. So we identified it clearly, and we thought, okay, we should not really start from scratch each time, each project. And so we created accelerators that would support ERP programs to move faster. So Marcel, can you please explain more about these accelerators and the rationale behind them?
Absolutely. So I think what Vincent was explaining, it's an ERP transformation program, and we have seen during the years and these projects, Ala mentioned many such similar projects, and all of them had very lots of similarities. So every of these projects needed a data model. There was the request for specific workflows. There was also the request for specific roles. And we at Apgar thought, why not harmonizing them and coming up with, we call them accelerator, we call them business solution, but I also like the term template, because it's really a template to start a project, because we are bringing already a data model which already covers approximately 500 attributes which will be used within the program. And with this approach, we can really speed up the project. So we have it also defined in 3 layers. We have a base layer with the MDM system itself. Then we are coming with our template level. And on the 3rd level, we have the customization. And that's exactly where Vincent and his team are working in now to customize that and make it fit for the ERP program.
Yeah, so Vincent, you're using some of these accelerators. What can you tell us about it?
So we are indeed using the accelerator. The reason, the value we're seeing in the accelerator is data modeling is a lot of people are talking about that. Very few people are expert about it. And I think it requires a lot of experience and trial and error probably to be able to be good at modeling. And then by going with the accelerator, we are benefiting from that knowledge and that experience that you had through your different project. For sure, as well, the fact that model is very much SAP compliant. We know that I was referring to entering into SAP is a bit of a difficult journey because SAP is very cautious and very strict in terms of data quality. We knew that going with the ABGAR accelerator, we would benefit from the already implemented data quality rules and business rules, which could be a real blocker in your program. And also the fact that the way you already had experiences of integration with SAP. On one of our domain, we didn't use the accelerator because we already had an existing MDM solution that we decided to keep mainly to limit the impact on our application. But this being said, we still leverage I would say the IP and all the intellectual and design work that was done by the ABGAR team, and were able therefore to bake and integrate into our existing solution all the knowledge and the experience from the accelerator.
So we name it clearly accelerator because we don't have the claim that it's a turnkey solution. Yeah, so it requires definitely some customization to fit the requirement of our customers. In your experience, Vincent, how do you identify the balance really between customization and keep following the standard? Because after all, in the accelerator, there is the standard. What we have seen with a lot of our customers, this is what is described actually and put in place in those accelerators. But how do you define where to customize, where to keep the standard?
So where I'm very strict is on the definition and the concept. Customer is a customer, a channel is a channel, a supplier is a supplier. Then we can decide to do a little bit of customization on some attributes. We have in Sweden a very specific way to pay invoices. Then it's okay to develop that and to add this functionality into the system. But it's still a payment, and then it still corresponds to the definition that we've said. It's also back to what we were discussing about global, regional, and local. I think is yes, in an ideal world, you would want one model for everyone. I think it's been tried. I don't remember it was that successful. So that do not compromise, no compromise on the concept. Look at the customization and make sure that the customization is either a legal requirement, because we are also operating in an environment which is regulated, or bringing value to the company.
Yeah, I think it's as said, it's really about global, local definitions. And what we see, and I'm currently also in another project, it's exactly what they're doing there. So they're coming up with a pilot in one country, and that's the basis then also for the rollout of other countries. So really trying to define the global structure, as you mentioned, with the names and terminology in one, and then maybe doing some adoptions on the local level. So I think that's a good example how to do it, and really start with one piece and then move to the next.
Okay. Before we wrap up, I have some philosophical questions for you, Vincent. So if you reflect back on what has been done, from your perspective, what turned to be completely different from what you planned originally?
I think I had to spend a lot of time arguing especially with the SAP consultant, on the added value to the overall program of MDM. I think most of the consultants are used to implement SAP. Some of them the SAP proprietary solution, but very few of them have been exposed to having a proper master data solution on the side. So we had to explain, convince, and again to make sure that they see the value. And I think now they get it.
And what worked particularly well from your perspective?
I think it was part of the I was very lucky in my project team to have really business people. Sometimes you want to approach those data questions with data architect or really people with a strong experience in integration, data migration. What proved to be very very valuable is to have people who had a bit of experience of managing master data, who had a bit of experience of being exposed to master data, but having the business knowledge to be able to dig deeper into those concepts and drive an harmonization workshop on distribution channel and understand what it was so important and what was the value to be expected from that.
And if you get to restart, what would you do differently?
So I would do two things. And I guess it's probably my experience of running project is spend even more time on modeling and designing, concept definition. Sometimes there's always especially when you are in a big project, you want to see real stuff starting to appear. And whereas now development is much faster and much quicker than it was before. So really making sure we have the right model. And the second thing I would do, I would take boxing lessons because I understand from you, Ala, that the methodology is not enough. And if I need to fight against Mike, I need to be ready.
Helps. I wanted actually to have some time to talk about the change management from data perspective, but we're running out of time. So we have focused on business processes definition and data modeling, implementation, so on. But there is a much simpler and basic actually thing to work on, which is the people. And we know when we're working on data topics, onboarding people and team is always a big challenge, especially in our case here where the driver is an ERP modernization program. And even what we see from our experience inside those programs, when we talk about change management, it focuses really on the adoption of the business processes, on the adoption of the tool, the new ERP, and in this case, data management solutions, and particularly the master data management solution, is seen just as a supporting tool. We need to learn how to use it. And so we're missing really on the concept of master data management, and we're missing even on the concept of data management and what is the benefit that this can give to the organization. But again, this is we don't have time for it today, so I think it could be a topic for a next session. I would like to thank you both for your time today, for all the nice insight that you gave us. And I have something for you, actually, Vincent. As the name of the show, we were talking about in the shoes of data leaders. So you're a data leader, but you're missing a shoe. So this is for you.
Thank you very much, Ala. Shall I open it?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just trying it for these shoes.
It's a bit orange.
Nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would like also to thank our audience for their time. I invite you to follow our page. Go also to our website to download our ebooks and stay tuned with us for our next episode of In the Shoes of Data Leaders. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.